Hi guys, welcome to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. This is episode 106, I believe, yes. And today is Monday the 31st of July. And yeah, I'm coming to you from my home in New York in the US. And yeah, so thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much. If you are a returning viewer, I really appreciate you guys coming back each week or every time I record anyway. And thank you if you're checking me out for the first time. I really appreciate it that you take the time out of your day to hang out for a little bit. I have quite a packed episode this week. You can't really see, but maybe just at the corner there, a huge pile of finished things to show you. And I have a few announcements and some new patterns coming out soon to talk about, as well as some life stuff to update you guys on. So there's a little bit of everything this week. We do have a couple of Knitalongs running as well, which I will cover briefly when we get to that section. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Baby is sleeping. If you're new, I have a 5-month-old baby and she's currently sleeping at the moment, and hopefully I can get through most of this before she wakes up. Okay, so you can find me online in a variety of places. On Ravelry, I'm Mina Phillip. On Instagram, it's Knitting Expat. There's a Ravelry group for the podcast, Knitting Expat Podcast, in the groups tabs, and there's the blog for the show notes is knittingexpat.wordpress.com, and everything is linked below this video on YouTube and everywhere else that you can find it. So yeah, it should be pretty simple to find me online, and it's Knitting Expat Designs is my the name of the Ravelry shop for my designs, which is also linked below. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers most of everything I wanted to tell you at the beginning. I feel really out of sync with this, or like out of practice, because it's been a while. I was going to record last Friday, but Leda was a bit ill. My daughter was a bit ill last week, and things are still not completely back to normal right now, but at least she's a little bit better, I guess. So I'm sort of in the right headspace to sit down and record today. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so first up, a little announcement. I have a new mystery knit-along that's going to be starting. Mystery knit-along that's going to be starting in September. It is a DK weight shawl. I've posted some information about it on Instagram, so if you're interested, you can go check it out there. I will be listing the pattern for like pre-sale tomorrow. So August 1st it'll be available, and when you purchase it before September, all you get is like an information sheet which tells you everything about the yardage, color choices, you know, weight of yarn, needles, gauge, all of that information that you need. Most of that will also be available on the pattern page. It's as well on Ravelry, so you can see all that information there. Like I said, I've posted a few pictures to Instagram with some color combination ideas and also more details of the pattern like what I've just explained. And these are the colors that I used for mine. So I designed it using Primrose Yarn Company on her Jasper DK base, and the orange one is Curry Spice, and the other neutral sort of creamy beige one is Snow Owl, which is actually one of my favorite sort of neutral colorways. It's mostly sort of like this creamy beige, but it does have little flecks of darker color in there, which gives it a nice sort of contrast. So if you're going for, it's a 2-color shawl. It's designed for 2 colors, and but you can do it in a single color if you'd wish. I would suggest having a high contrast if you're going for 2 colors, because that really will show off the interplay between the colors in the different sections a lot more. Obviously, if you want a more subtle look, then you can go for less contrasting colors. You will need 4 skeins of DK, about 800 yards total for this. I used slightly more of my colour B than my colour A, so my orange was my colour A, so that will give you a rough idea. I did have a sizable amount left, so if your skeins of DK are slightly shorter, then these skeins of DK are like about 245 yards per skein, which is quite heavy in terms of yardage for DK. Typically DK is around 220, 230, so you should be fine with a slightly shorter skein as well. And you should have enough leftovers to, I mean, this is about 70 grams at the moment, so this will be enough to like do a hat or something. So a usable amount as well is left generally. And also the other reason I did that was to allow for variations in gauge. It's a shawl. I know not many people gauge swatch for a shawl. I know I don't. So it just allows for variations in gauge and tensions and stuff like that. So like I said, the pattern will be available tomorrow for pre-order. It will be on sale at a cheaper price when it first goes up until the start of the KAL. The knit-along will start in September. I believe I said it would be the 2nd of September that the start date was. I can't remember. I will have all that information on the pattern page. I need to sit down and check the calendar again. But yeah, so that will be all on there. I don't even know if I've told you the name of the shawl. It's called the Road to Rhinebeck Mystery Knit-along, and it's kind of like in the run-up to Rhinebeck, if you're going to Rhinebeck, like a fun shawl to knit to wear to the festival. It's my first time going this year, which I'm really excited about, and I thought in honour of that it would be fun to design a mystery knit-along for it. So it's going to start in September, and all the clues will be released by the end of September, which gives you an extra couple of weeks or so to finish up your shawls. If you are a little bit sort of behind, or you fall behind on a couple of clues or something, then that gives you enough time to catch up before the actual festival. And I'm going to have a knit-along running alongside the mystery knit, as the name suggests, it is a mystery knit-along. So there'll be threads in the group. There'll be just a general chatter thread, which will be no spoilers, and then there'll be a spoilers thread if you want to post pictures and discuss there, and then there'll be a finished objects thread. So again, all of the information for the knit-along rules and everything will be in those threads, and I will put those up probably tomorrow as well, or sometime this week, to coincide with when the pattern gets released. And I think that's basically the majority of the information I wanted to give you guys about that. The needles I used were 4.5mm needles as well, so US 7s. Like I said, I think all the information for that will be on the pattern page. I just can't think of anything else that I thought I needed to tell you about that. But if you have any questions about it, feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to answer those, or if you know, I'll answer them either directly back to you, or I will make sure I include that information that you've asked for in the threads and in the pattern page. Okay, so I think we should dive right in. We have some finished objects. I have 8 finished objects to show you. One is a slightly older finished object because it's one I finished. It was one of the, you know, we'll just get to it. When we get to it, it'll make more sense. Okay, so first up I have something you haven't even seen as a whip, but it's a really chunky, basically it's a baby blanket. I had a couple of skeins of Cascade Magnum in the doe skin heather colorway, so it's just this sort of beigey taupe tan color. And I meant to mention this on the podcast last week, but I never got round to it. Oh, I forgot because Layla was distracting me at the end. But my sister-in-law's pregnant, so Perry's sister is pregnant, and she is due her baby just before Christmas. So that'll be really fun to have another baby to play with at Christmas time, and when we go back and things like that. And also it's nice for Layla to have a cousin who's going to be around the same sort of age as her to play with when they get older. So that's really fun. And so I actually bought this yarn from Pearl Soho a couple of years ago with the intention of knitting like a hat and cowl, like chunky hat and cowl set for my sister-in-law. I just never got around to it. She always she loves those sort of like really chunky knit things, like, you know, they always go around like on Pinterest and Facebook and stuff like that. She always ends up tagging me in them, so I know she likes this style of yarn, like nice chunky yarns. So I thought a baby blanket would be perfect and she'd really appreciate it. I knit it corner to corner because I only had 2 skeins and I wasn't sure how big it would be to be able to, you know, cast on the right number of stitches, not to waste too much, and I didn't want it to end up being too narrow or too wide or whatever. So I decided to do corner to corner. I guess I kind of when I didn't use a particular pattern, I just sort of started cast on 5 stitches and then just increased on either side on the way up until I ran out of the first skein, and then joined the second skein and decreased either side until I was back down to 5 stitches at the end, and this was literally all I had left over, so just a tiny amount. So yeah, the only thing I didn't realise until after I started it is that this yarn is hand wash only, so hopefully she won't mind. I've never really, I tend to avoid gifting people hand wash items, especially for babies. I mean, I personally don't mind hand washing stuff for babies, but I don't really want to kind of force it on other people. But I thought this would be a nice blanket to use, you know, for a car seat when they're in the car and stuff in the winter, when it's a winter baby, so it's gonna be quite cold, and or for tummy time or something. So it doesn't have to be a all the time kind of blanket. It's quite big and warm. So anyway, I hope she'll enjoy that for the baby. I used 12mm needles, which I think that's the US 17, but I'm not entirely sure. Then next up, little itty bitty baby hat. So I just knit this for Layla. It is out of what is it? I knitted it on 4mm needles, US 6s. It's my own design. I didn't really there's no real pattern to it. Well, actually there is a pattern for this, although not specifically this pattern. Okay, so I have a couple of hat patterns coming out soon that also have like a toddler child size as well, and I just wanted to test out that size hat to see how big it turned out for the measurements to be able to put it into the pattern. And so when I started, this was going to be a cabled hat, because that's what those hats are. They're the two of them, they're cable designs. So it was going to be a cabled hat, but as I was knitting it up on the brim, I could see that it was going to be quite busy, and that the yarn probably wasn't going to be the best to show off cables. So I decided to just do a basic sort of stockinette based hat with just some simple pearl stitch details. It's just sort of just pearl stitches spiraling up the hat, nothing super fancy. And I just did a garter rib brim. I showed last time, I showed you when I knit the rib, I put a Madeline Tosh leftover Tosh Merino Light on the inside of the brim, so it's nice and soft against the skin, because the yarn on the outside is actually a BFL. It's 100% BFL, which is fine, and I think it's okay for me next to skin as an adult, but I think for a baby or children who have like pretty sensitive skins, they might find it a little bit too rough. So I just put a nice soft merino yarn on the inside of the brim, and yeah. So this hat actually turned out a little bit bigger because it is a stockinette base. For cabled hat, the cabled hats, I've got more stitches cast on than, or in the body anyway, than you would really realistically need for a stockinette based hat. But by the time I got there and changed my mind about doing the cables, I decided to just go with it. So it's a little bit big on her, but that's fine, and it's nice and stretchy. And although it's a little bit shallow for me, this size, which is the child, young adult child size, it still goes on my head perfectly fine. Although it is, like I said, it's too shallow, it's not deep enough for my head. But so it is pretty versatile. And if she wakes up later and I get to record a little bit, I'll show you what it looks like with her wearing it. Here's Layla with her hat. Hey honey, she just woke up from your nap. Mwah. There we go. So like I said, you see it's a little bit big, but I guess she'll grow into it. It's a little bit squared at the top, but there we go. Then I've got another hat that I finished. This one, it's just a plain beanie, nothing super special, no pattern. I just sort of cast on a bunch of stitches and got going with it, really. I still need to block it, this hasn't been blocked, but I cast this on actually Saturday afternoon, and Saturday evening I was going out with Jacqueline from Brooklyn Knit Folk and one of my other knitting friends who lives quite close to me, Kristen, and her fiance. We were going to go see Midsummer's Night Dream at Shakespeare in the Park, in Central Park, and I had nothing really to knit because I pretty much finished everything that I had on my needles. So I cast this on, got going on the brim, and by the end of dinner I finished the brim. And so during the play I knit the rest of the hat. By the time we got to intermission, I was a few rows away from the decreases, so there was enough ambient light, thankfully, that I was just able to do the decreases and bind off and everything while we were still there. So about 20 minutes before the show ended, I finished the hat. So this is, the yarn is Richard de Vries on the thin worsted base, and this is in the navy colorway. So this is a hat, if you saw, I think on the last episode I showed the yarn. I got it in Boston to knit a hat for my cousin who lives in Boston. I knit him a hat last year, and he told me that his daughter stole it, so he asked me to knit him another hat, and I was happy to oblige. So I'll just give this a wash, and then I'll send it off in the mail to him. So 3 projects down, a few more to go. Next up, pair of socks. I think this was if not the only pair, they were like the second pair I knit in July. I really didn't knit that many socks this month, but it's covered in cat hair already. I just washed them, but cat hair gets everywhere. So these are the Yorkville socks, which was July's sock club pattern, and I don't know, it's not showing up too well, but you see the texture really well in person. It's quite a dark, rich red. It's showing a little bit brighter on screen than it is in real life. Just try to see if you can see the patterning. There we go. And the yarn that I've used is Knitalongs Lair in the Unico colorway, which is translated as poppy. It's a Finnish yarn. I picked this up in Helsinki when we were there last summer, and it was one of the yarns that Perry picked out that he wanted me to knit socks out of, so socks it became. It's his birthday at the end of August, so I'm hoping to get another pair of socks finished for him, which I'll show you in whips, to give him for his birthday. He still wears his hand knit socks even in the summer, so he's definitely knit worthy in that regard. Yeah, and so I knit these on 2.25mm needles. The yarn base is a 75/25 superwash wool nylon. So it's quite rustic feeling, but it's fine for socks. Then next up, finished object size, we have cardigans, or a cardigan. This is my Samuel cardigan, which is a pattern by Johi Locatelli, and it's finished. I've done the second sleeve. Last time I showed it to you, I had one sleeve done, and then it pretty much, since last time, it just sat sitting in a corner just waiting for me to pick up the second sleeve, and I picked it up on Friday afternoon, and by Saturday evening I'd finished the sleeve. So that was that done. I set it out to block, and it's all blocked now. I actually have to try it on and see how it fits. I still need to get buttons for it. I don't have buttons for it yet. So one of my questions for you guys this week is, where's your favorite place to buy buttons from? Like, I don't mind in person or ordering online, but I'd be curious. I've never purchased buttons from Etsy or online or anywhere, so I'd be curious what your favorite Etsy shops are for handmade buttons, or just buttons in general. So let me know in the comments on YouTube or in the episode thread on the group. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to try and insert, I think I'm just going to pause and try this on so you can see what it looks like when I wear it. And this is the Samuel cardigan by Johi Locatelli, and this fits really well. Like, it will fit, it will close at the front. I just don't have any buttons on it right now, so I do need to get some buttons. And yeah, I love the length of this. I did add quite a bit of length to it. I think I did about 10 or so more repeats in the length, and they're 4-row repeats, so I added about maybe 40 to 50 rows to the pattern. But I really like how it turns out. I pretty much always add rows to the sleeves and to the body of garments anyway, because I tend to like them quite long, and I'm quite tall anyway, so I prefer that. So yeah, I really love the sort of cable detail running down the sides of the front here, and the fact that it's an all over texture sort of works really nicely. And there we go. Okay, so the next finished object I have to show you is another garment. This is the Cusco sweater by We Are Knitters. This was a kit from We Are Knitters, and yeah, and it's done. Last time I showed it to you, I had all the pieces done, and so since then I've just seamed it all together. Although I feel like I could have stretched out the sleeve a little bit and like had it go down a bit further, because it's a little bit tight around the sleeve seam, but I mean, that's fine, it will stretch out. And I've added the neckband to the neck, and this fits quite nicely. It's a little bit smaller than I was expecting it to turn out based on the sizing in the pattern, but I also ended up with basically 2 full skeins left over. So for the pattern comes in 4 sizes: small, medium, large and extra large, and I was going for the large size. So for the 2 larger sizes you get 2 extra skeins of yarn, because you'll need it, or you need extra yarn for it. So I was expecting to use a little bit more yarn, so I guess my gauge must have been off a little bit. I didn't gauge swatch, I just went with it. It still fits and it's fine, but it's probably a little bit shorter than I would have liked. So I don't know, what I might try and do is, at some point, it doesn't bother me because I will wear this probably over dresses a lot, so then the length doesn't matter so much, but I do kind of wish I'd knit it a little bit longer. But lessons for next time. I was worried about running out of yarn. So what I really should have done was knit the sleeves first and then knit the body, because then I would have known how much yarn I had left and I could have made the body pieces longer. But that's a lesson for another time. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this fits, and well, how this looks anyway, and I will insert a little clip of me wearing it for you guys here, like I did with the other cardigan. Okay, so this is the Cusco sweater. This is what it looks like fitted. I'm sorry, this is the only mirror in the house that we have. I'm sorry it's a little bit dirty, but so it fits quite well. There is quite a bit of negative ease in it, positive ease I mean, in it, which is how the pattern is written, although it's supposed to have more positive ease than this. It's not a bad length, like I think this is just generally a normal sweater length for most people, but I quite like my jumpers and pullovers to be, and cardigans to be longer. And like I said, it's a little bit tight around the arms, but I think that will stretch out over time, and it doesn't bother me all that much. It's not uncomfortable, but it is quite warm today, so I'm not going to keep this on for too long. So the last thing I have to show you is, well, the last two things I have to show you are my newest design. So this is going to be the Color Blender wrap and scarf. So this is the wrap version. I can show it to you. It's pretty huge. I mean, this is folded in half at the moment. So there's two versions to this. Well, actually technically three sort of variations that you can do with this. This one has like the chevron-y points on it. So you can either fold the chevrons in or have them on the outside. However way, you could either have this be on the outside or on the inside. Or you can fold the chevrons inwards. You don't even have to do chevrons if you don't want to. This was just one version of it. I wanted to show what it would look like in all the variations. So it's a really sizable wrap. It's my wingspan and some. And you can even just like scrunch it up and wrap it around nice and warm for winter. So this is the 7 skein wrap size. There are 4 sizes in the pattern. There's going to be a 4 and 5 skein scarf version, which I'll show you in a second, and a 6 and 7 skein wrap version. So this is the 7 skein. So this is going to be the largest size in the pattern. And I've made a couple of slight modifications to the pattern based on how this and the scarf version, which was the other one I want to show you, have turned out, but nothing major, just to make the most of the yarn that you're using. So I'll show this. The yarn I used for this was Primrose Yarn Company again, and on her Adelaide singles base. And this is the shawl, or the wrap, and the scarf are all knit with fingering weight held double. So this is a great way to use up those single skeins and to like really blend the colours together without it looking too strange. So this half of the shawl kind of looks really well blended together, and this is like with picking colours that are really close together, and at this end there definitely is a little bit more contrast between the sections, but it still flows really seamlessly. So I'll tell you what colours I used. At this end we started with Succulents. It's a little bit blown out on the camera. So we start with Succulents, then it's Succulents and Pisces, then it's just Pisces, then it's Pisces and Forbidden Forest, oh sorry, Skinny Dipping, and then it's Skinny Dipping on its own. Then we've got Skinny Dipping with Forbidden Forest in this section, Forbidden Forest on its own, then Forbidden Forest with Charcoal and Glitter, then it's just Charcoal and Glitter on its own in this section, and this section is Charcoal and Glitter with Salem, then it's Salem on its own in this section, and then we've got Salem and Morticia, and it ends with Morticia on its own at the end. So it's a good sort of, you know, quite easily get from a really sort of pale pastel-y green to a really dark purple at the other end without it looking too strange. It's a really lovely sort of transition of colour. So that's the wrap version. Now the scarf version, this was originally, this width is now going to be in the 4 skein version, because I did this width with 5 skeins and it's really, really long. It is a little bit ridiculously long. This thing is, I can't even show it to you in one wing. This is basically double my wingspan. And this version, so the wrap I did as like chevrons. So you have options in the pattern for which sort of how you want it to lean. So this is all done with the left leaning instructions. So it's just straight edges with a left leaning bias. You're knitting up on a left leaning bias. Whereas the chevron, I sort of alternated between sections between left leaning and right leaning to get like the chevron effect at the edges. So it's totally up to you how you want to do it. So I started at this end, and this is a golden sort of brown colour from a Turkish dyer. It was sent to me as part of a package from a lovely viewer. Then we move into blending it with All Saints colourway by the lovely Magdalena of the Wolf and Schaefer podcast. And then we have All Saints on its own. And I mixed a variety of yarn bases and different sort of colourways and stuff like that together. There we go, that's a better representation of that colour. And then we mixed All Saints with Fortunate Sun by Lolo Did It. And then we've got Fortunate Sun on its own. And then we've got Fortunate Sun with Summer en Provence, which is by Franco Knits. And then we've got Summer en Provence on its own. And then we've got Summer en Provence with Summer Nights, which is also by Lolo Did It. And then ends with Summer Nights on its own. So the theme I went with this one, again, I've got sort of like a golden yellow green to purple thing going. But the way I did it with this one is slightly different. I went with a tonal, then a speckled, with a tone, with then going back into a tonal, going into a speckled, and into a tonal. And this kind of like really is another way of playing with colours in this one, and again blending them quite seamlessly. And the best thing about this is, even though it's all in garter stitch, this stitch here is what I call cheats brioche, because it looks like brioche. It basically is brioche. It's basically like a one colour brioche, but it's so easy. It's so simple. So I'm really happy with it. This is the perfect sort of mindless TV knitting, or I knit the scarf. Took me 7 days. The wrap took me 10 days to finish. Bear in mind, like, it was predominantly the only thing I was knitting at the time on both of these, but bear in mind this is me knitting with like a little bit during the day when Layla naps, in the evenings, and even whilst looking after Layla, there's like 20 minutes here and there when she's happy to play on her own for a little bit or playing with her toys and stuff. I can sit down next to her and knit a couple of rows. It is so great. The best thing about both of these as well is that your stitch counts never change. Even though you've got directional, you're working on a bias, your stitch count doesn't change. You always got the same number of stitches, so you don't have to worry about losing count. It's really easy to see where you are in the pattern by counting the garter rows, and it's just so much fun. And endless possibilities in terms of you can go with like a completely neutral palette, or a pale palette, or a bright palette. You can go for really high contrast yarns next to each other, or you can go for yarns that blend more seamlessly together. I mean, the idea for this really stemmed from this crochet blanket that I did for Layla before she was born. I did this basically the same concept of blending. So I started with a red, then a red with orange, then orange on its own, then orange and yellow, then yellow. And you see, even though they're, you know, very stark rainbowy colors, they're all contrast, they don't blend that well, but the blanket still looks really cohesive and nicely blended. So that was kind of where the idea came from. So you can go for something as equally bright and bold and, you know, contrasty as a rainbow spectrum, or you can go with something that's a little bit less contrasty, like this section at the top here. These colors all blend really well into each other without it looking like there's any obvious seams where the different colors join. And yeah, so that's really fun. I'm really excited about that pattern. So that will be coming out, I think the date I picked was the 11th of August for that one. So I think that's a Friday, or was like towards the end of the week. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. I still need to get some good photos of it. I haven't had an opportunity. I don't really have any space in the apartment at the moment with an empty bare wall where I can set up to take some photos by myself. So I'm hoping this coming weekend we'll be able to get out to the park and Perry can take some pictures of me with the shawl. So looking forward to that. And yeah, so that's it for finished objects. So the fire skein version was one that I finished a while ago, but I never showed it on the podcast because I wanted to keep it a bit of a secret until it was all done. And this one wraps like a bajillion times around your neck. So like I said, this width is going to become the 4 skein version. So it will end, where will it end? it will end here, so we won't have this extra bit, which is where the 5th skein comes in. So it's still going to be a sizable, it's easily going to be like a 2-time wrap scarf, but with the 5th skein it becomes like a 3-wrap scarf, which I think is probably a little bit too much for some people. I mean, I'm quite tall, so this actually works quite nicely for me. But I mean, the 5 skein, there is a 5 skein scarf version in it. It's just a little bit wider. It's just a few more stitches, so it won't be as narrow as this. So it'll probably be like this wide, which just means it shouldn't end up being quite as long as this. It'll just be slightly shorter, but still plenty long. So yeah, if you have any questions about that or want to know any more specifics about it, then please let me know. I think once I post the pattern, I will also post a few pictures of some colour combination ideas that I came up with just from yarns from my stash. There will be, I believe, Kelsey from Primrose Yarn Company is going to have some kits together for the shawl or the wrap version, but by all means use your stash. That's what I did for the 5 skein version. I just dove into my stash and picked 5 skeins that went together, and since then I took out pulled out my stash the other day and sort of just put together different combinations. I think I came up with 7 or 8 different combos, 5 skein and 7 skein versions, just out of yarns I had in my stash. So it is so much fun to just play with the yarn that you do have already to come up with colour combination ideas. It's a great way to sort of use up these special skeins, and it's also what I found really fun to do was just pick one sort of focal skein, I guess, and then pull out colours from that and work from that to build your palette. That's also really fun to do. It's just a fun way to play with colour and see what works for you anyway. And the best thing is, you know, colours don't have to be perfectly matching or perfectly blending from one into another. You can have a stunning contrast and it will still blend perfectly when you go from one to the next. So moving on from that to works in progress, I have a few things to, not actually that much to talk to you about. I've made some progress, like quite a bit of progress actually, on my pinwheel scrap blanket. I have knit several more squares. So this is one square that I finished, and this one's blocked, all ends woven in and everything. So this one's blocked. Then I knit this one, which hasn't been blocked yet. It needs to be blocked because you can see here this edge of the block is kind of curving in a little bit. That's just because this is from a sock blank, so it's all crinkly yarn. And the one next to it is actually a sport weight, so it's a bit thicker. A couple of these corners, a couple of these yarns I was a little bit short on, so I started the next colour and just worked it around the corner and kept going. This one needs to be blocked, like I said. Oh, that's showing the wrong side, I'm sorry, it's the right side. And then this is the last block I did, and I pretty much knit this all yesterday. Started it in the morning and finished by the afternoon. And these are all really special skeins. Most of these are yarns that I knit, actually these are all yarns that I knit in the last days before we left Bahrain. This was the last pair of socks I knit while we were still in Bahrain. Then I've got these were my Layla socks that I designed out of this Adelaide Cottage yarn. And then this is the yarn I used to knit Layla's newborn vertebrae, which we brought her home in from the hospital. These were socks that I knit for gifts around Christmas time. This Wool and Vine Deck the Halls yarn, I knit a pair of Christmas socks for myself. I knit a little nugget sweater out of this yarn, which was Legacy Fibre Arts in their Valentine's colourway. And yeah, so it's just really special yarns and really special memories from a very exciting and stressful time in our lives, but everything worked out quite well in the end. So this is a very memorable block for me. So that's the progress on that. I haven't made that much progress on my granny stripe blanket, so I'm not really going to show you that today. But the other project I'm working on is another pair of socks for Perry, which like I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to get 2 pairs done for him for his birthday. This one is out of Primrose Yarn Company again. I have quite a bit of her yarn to work with. And this is on her Cosmic Helix base, which is a 2-fly fingering. It's a really plump 2-fly fingering. 425 yards in 115 grams. And it's Emerald Midnight in the potluck. So I think it was like a one-off. So it's a really fun sort of emerald green colour and slightly tonal. And we went to, Perry and my mum, who was here at the time, came with me when we went to Kelsey's trunk show with Layla, and so I asked Perry to pick out a skein of yarn that he liked for a pair of socks. I pointed him to where the sock yarn was, and so he could pick any of those yarns for socks, and he picked this colorway, which was really nice, and he likes green, so I wasn't too surprised that he picked it. It is 100% superwash merino. There is no nylon in this, but as I talked about last week in the socks, how socks have worn bit, I have no issues knitting him or anyone 100% superwash merino socks, because they wear pretty well, at least for us anyway. I've never had any issues with it. And I decided, instead of just doing them plain vanilla, to do a slight pattern on them. I've already done a pair of Yorkville socks for him and Grand Central socks, and the other patterns in the collection I don't think are really designs that he would wear. So I think I just came up with basically this sort of, I don't know if you can see it very well, you might see it on this one, there's like a spiral of pearl bumps, and then that's just going to go around. I've got it on both sides. I don't usually pattern on both sides of a sock, but this is so simple. I'm just going to spiral it around the leg, and then it'll just be on the top of the foot later. This isn't a particular pattern, like I said, I just sort of making it up as I go. And yeah, and I cast on 56 stitches using 2.5mm needles, so US 1.5s. Typically that's what I do for myself and for Perry. Whenever if it's on 2.25mm, it's 64 stitches, and if it's on 2.5mm, I do it on 56 stitches. But what I will probably do is I will do the mini heel flap adjustment and German short row heel, which is my go-to, and it's in most of my sock patterns now. I will probably, rather than decreasing all the gusset stitches out straight away, I'll probably leave an extra few stitches in there just so there's more room in that area, and then decrease them out a little bit later, or a few rows later, just to add a bit more space. But I'll talk about that more once I've done it. It's just an idea at the moment. And I'm using my High Sharp interchangeable needle set for these, and I really love the cord on these. They're very different to the High Sharp sock needle cords that aren't interchangeable, so it's really nice and sort of floppy without any memory sort of cord, which I quite like. That's it for works in progress. I really don't have much on the needles. All my finished objects were everything I had on the needles, and I've basically just worked to clear them all. But I did want to talk a little bit about some dream knitting. There's some baby knits that my mum has kept, I guess, since I was a baby, that my aunts and family members had knit, and some of them are really beautiful. I mean, this one, which is one of my favorite ones, it's really blown out now. There we go. It's nice sort of like corally color, and Layla wore this for her 1 month photos, her 4-week-old photos, and she was so adorable in it. This is the first time when I dressed her in this, was the first time I was like, oh, she looks like a little person now rather than just a baby. And so yeah, so I've been looking at these and like studying them a little bit, I guess, and like I noticed while it's all knit, the edging is like, it's got like a crochet shell stitch on the edge. I don't know if you can see that, which is really pretty, and it's on the bottom as well, so you might be able to see it clearer there. It's like a little crochet shell stitch on all the edges, and it's actually seamed, this garment. It was knit flat, and I found the seam earlier where you can see it's been seamed up. This one. This is the seam here, this line. And it's just really fun to sit down and look at these garments and sort of figure out how they were constructed. So I think what I'm going to try and do with this one and with this one, because I really like this cardigan, I think it's really adorable, and the lace detailed panels going down the side are just really cute, and nothing too complicated at all. But I think I'm going to somewhat reverse engineer / adapt and sort of come up with a couple of patterns based on this dress and this cardigan, which I think will be really cute and adorable. So stay tuned for that in the future at some point. I do think this dress especially, I think, is really adorable. And yeah, the versions I would do would be seamless. I wouldn't design a seamed baby garment. I just think that that's a little bit too much for a baby who's going to outgrow these things pretty quickly. Usually with seaming, normally I would look to seam a garment if I was worried about it stretching and pulling, but with baby or children's clothes, they grow out of them so quickly, or they only get to wear them for a couple of seasons or something, then it's not really necessary, at least I don't feel, to necessarily have them be seamed. So that's something I'm dreaming about doing at some point soon. other dream knitting. I have 2 other children's garment patterns that I'm dreaming up at the moment, and I haven't quite cast them on yet, but I've swatched for them, and I've got a couple of swatching tips I thought I would share. I swatched these literally this morning during Layla's morning nap, so I haven't blocked them yet, but I wanted to share a couple of swatching tips that I've picked up over the years. More about keeping, to be honest, it's tips more about keeping track of what needle size you've swatched with, so you don't forget later when you go back. So the yarns I'm looking at using is this yarn by Unplanned Peacock and the Lippy colorway, and I showed this last week. It's a DK, 230 yards in 100 grams, and this is, I'm thinking about doing a sort of a vest pattern, which will be really fun. And then I've also got another skein, or 3 skeins actually, of a Primrose Yarn Company in the Nasty Unicorn colorway. This is also on the DK Jasper DK base, and yeah, so this is going to be a cardigan with some cabling details, which I think will also be really fun. So I did a couple of swatches this morning whilst she was sleeping, while Layla was sleeping, and I don't tend to do like massive swatches. I really just want to get a general idea of what my stitch count is. And with sweaters, because I don't tend to pull them out or like really pin them out too much. Sometimes I'll pin out the edges just to keep them straight so they don't like curl or curve and stuff like that, but I don't really stretch them out to fit I don't pin them out to fit a certain size. I kind of just like lay it out, shape it by hand without using too many pins. That way when it dries, it will shrink back up into whatever size it wants to stay at. So for that reason, I don't tend to do massive swatches. I find I don't get that much of a difference in result when I do or don't. So just do a little swatch, generally about 20 or 30 stitches depending on the weight of yarn that I'm using. So this is DK, I needed 20 stitches, a couple of rows garter at the top and bottom, and a couple of garter stitches on the edges. But with this one, what I did was, to keep track of what needle size I used, I put little knots. So I'm just going to focus on that. Knots in the end of the yarn. So there's 7 knots in here, so I used the US size 7, which is a 4.5mm. That way, if for whatever reason this project goes on the back burner and I don't start it right away, I come back to it later, I don't have to guess or try and remember what needle size I used. I can just look at the swatch, check how many knots are in the tail, and that tells me I used a US 7, which is a 4.5mm. So I'll never forget that that was with that size needle. With the other swatch, and I've seen this done, I've seen a couple of people do this with their swatches to keep track, is instead of doing knots in the tail, they put eyelets in like a little garter border at the bottom. So this one has 7 eyelets in it, so I know that again that's a US size 7, which is a 4.5mm. I mean, I personally prefer to use millimeters with needle sizes because I feel like that makes more sense, but because you're talking about actual measurement of the needle, but it's hard to do a half eyelet or a half knot. So it makes sense in this regard to go with the US sizes to be able to put, to remember what needle size it is. So this swatch is the exact same length size as this one. Both are DK, they both need a nice little soak. And then I'll be able to read my gauge off that and be able to do some calculations for the patterns based on that. So a couple of little swatching tips, more about keeping track of what needle size you've used in case you know, you start a project but you don't, or you start swatching for a project but you're not necessarily going to start casting it on straight away for whatever reason, something comes up or anything like that. So I hope that is somewhat useful to at least a couple of you. A couple of other things that I'm dream knitting. I've got this bulky yarn. It's a Turkish hand-dyed yarn which was sent to me by the same viewer who sent me the other yarn that I mentioned earlier. And this is a, actually I think I've got the tag here. It's Ruster, it's by Feather. It's the Ruster base in a purple colorway. It's color number 1033. It's 100 grams to 100 meters, so it's a nice, proper bulky, chunky yarn. And I'm planning on doing a pair of simple house slippers. I knit a pair for myself, I knit a pair for Perry. I'm planning on knitting at least one more pair as a gift for this Christmas. I'm not sure who they're going to go to yet. I have an idea, but I'm not going to say. And yeah, and if I split it into 250 gram balls, because this way if I run out halfway through, or like partway through the foot, then I can just add a different yarn for the toe, and it'll be the same on both slippers rather than just one, which I don't mind doing. But that's why they're split into two, in case you were wondering. I also have another baby knit pattern idea in mind for a worsted weight cardigan or pullover. I haven't decided which yet, but I've scaled up these two yarns by Tannis Fibre Arts. This is in the Iris colorway on the worsted base, and this was yarn that came in a knit crate a couple of months ago, so I'm really looking forward to working with these. I love the colors. I think they're very, very fun, sort of really fun colors basically, and I think whatever it'll be, it'll either be a texture, it'll probably be a textured pattern on the garment. I think that'll be really fun. So I've got quite a few baby knits coming up, which I'm really excited about. They're both quick and easy, and we're coming up to winter. We're going to be here for winter, and we're going to be in the UK for Christmas and stuff, so I'm hoping Layla's going to have a lot of opportunity to wear all these hand knits. And I have a couple of other designs I'm working on, which I guess I'll just talk about next time, because I think I've hammered on enough about it. So I'm going to take a quick break, grab a drink, and I'll be back with acquisitions. So back now with acquisitions. And so earlier last week on Tuesday, Shauna was in New York City for a hospital appointment, which thankfully went really well, so I'm so happy for you, Shauna. We went up for a coffee in the morning before her appointment. She got to meet Layla, got some cuddles, got to chat and meet in person for the first time, which was lovely. And Shauna, being the amazing person that she is, brought some yarn. She brought some beautiful skeins of yarn for me. One is for me, one is for you. So the one on the left here is on her toasty sock base. Come on, see it? It's showing a little bit brighter than it is. It's definitely a really lovely sort of rich, sort of pinkish red, sort of slightly corally colour. And this is in the 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend, 100 grams, 400 yards, and this is the colourway Time of My Life, which is lovely. And this one on the right is on her platinum twinkle base, which is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% silver stellina, and this is in the Atlantis colourway, which I think is beautiful as well. And I'm thinking this one, I think I might keep this one, and I'm thinking this one might become this dress. I might try and recreate this dress out of this yarn, because I think that would be beautiful. And I think I might keep this one for the giveaway. So this might be coming up in a giveaway pretty soon, or as a podcast prize actually, and so I will talk more about that when the time comes. So thank you very much for that, Shauna. And if you haven't checked out Shauna's podcast, she also has the Adelaide Cottage podcast, so that's definitely worth a look. And then on the Wednesday, another one of my knitting friends, Sarah, came down to New York for the day to hang out with her mum, and they came to meet Layla and just hang out for the day, which was really nice again to have them around. And she also bought some goodies, which I totally was not expecting. But she also brought a cute little monkey project bag, as well as some, if I can get this out, monkeys on a chain of monkeys, which I believe is a Susan B. Anderson pattern. So she knit this little string of monkeys for Layla in rainbow colours, because she knows I like rainbows. So that was really appreciative, and I really enjoyed that. And Layla enjoyed playing with it on the day as well. So yeah, that's really fun. And yeah, so I let her play with this every now and again, but I have to put it away afterwards, because otherwise Hugo tries to steal it. So multi-use toy, baby toy and cat toy. And Hugo, by the way, he's not here anymore, he's sleeping in the corner. So I'm sorry he's not here on the podcast today. We also have, she also made this little sort of shrug vest, top type thing for Layla as well, and some really, really lovely soft yarn. She did say there was some yak in it, so, but it was beautiful. She's knit this out of her handspun. Sarah does beautiful handspun, so that's really lovely. And she'll get to wear this for a while, because it's a short, like, cropped style, so, you know, babies grow taller more than they do width-wise once they get a little bit older, so this will fit her for quite a while. I think she says this is like the 1 year size, so she'll probably be able to wear this for a couple of years, which will be really lovely, like a layering piece. And then Sarah was ever so generous and also gifted me a skein of her handspun. This is Into the World, on there, out of the fibre is Romney, there we go, and this is fingering weight, 388 yards, in a traditional 3-ply fractal span. That's what she's put on the notes on the card, and I think this is beautiful. And the colourway is radioactive, which is quite funny because I actually picked up a skein of Into the World's sock yarn in the radioactive colourway when I was at Vogue Knitting Live this year. So Sarah obviously knows me really well because that was completely accidental. And she knows I love barbel poling, so she kind of took the barbel poling to the extreme with this skein for me, which I also really appreciate. So I'm not sure what this is going to be yet, but it will be something. Then the last thing I have is actually 2 things to show you. I picked up a sweater quantity, or I guess a shirt quantity for myself, and placed an order with Knit Picks. It's actually the first time I've bought yarn other than the Richard de Vries yarn I picked up in Boston. First time I've ordered yarn since, or bought yarn since like January, so it's been a while. And both the Richard de Vries and this happened in July, so it's been over 6 months since I bought yarn, or about 6 months. So this is Knit Picks Lindy Chain in the Hollyberry colourway. It's 70% linen, 30% Pima cotton. Beautiful sort of rich red, which I really love wearing this sort of colour. So I'm planning on making a sort of a t-shirt for myself. I'm thinking the Lena tee at the moment. It's a pattern by Carrie Bostic Hogue. It's designed for the Quincy Coast Sparrow, which is also a linen yarn. So I'm thinking it would work with this. I've seen a couple of projects where people have used Lindy chain for it, so I'm looking forward to trying it out. I've never worked with linen before, so I'm interested to see how this works. And I have 7 skeins, which should be enough to knit that t-shirt in my size. Pop that back in there. And the last thing I bought, which is really exciting, and I'm so excited for this, is so I showed you this crochet rainbow blanket that I did for Layla. I'm planning on doing one for my sister-in-law's baby as well. So I'm planning, I'm not going to do rainbow though for her. Because she's having a Christmas baby, I thought I would go with the Christmas colours, but not so Christmassy that you couldn't use it all year round either. You know, because it's going to be a Christmas baby, so I figure it's worth having a themed, it's worth going with the theme on this one. I'm just trying to get, I have 2 skeins of each colour. I'll just get them in the right order. I think it's this way, or is it that way? I think it's that way. So these are the colours I have, these 6 colours. It was a sampler pack of the Stroll Tweed. So there's the, I'll show you the colours individually. So there's Sequoia Heather, which is really lovely dark green. Then we've got Lost Lake Heather, which is like sort of dusky green. Come on. Why is it not focusing? There we go. And then we've got Forest Heather. I'm just gonna try and like switch them out like this. There's a brighter green. I'm not entirely sure which order these go in, which one's first. I'll have to check on their website. Then we have Oyster Heather, which is a lovely neutral. Followed by Firecracker Heather, which I think is a really fun sort of orangey red, or red with like orange undertones. Followed by Garnet Heather, which is a nice deep rich burgundy red. So I have 2 skeins of each, so 100 grams of each. So I'm looking forward to making an adorable little baby blanket, crocheted one for her baby as well. She really appreciates, my sister-in-law really appreciates whatever I've made her in the past, usually socks and shawls. So I'm hopeful that she will appreciate these, and I'm also planning some baby knits for her. We're still waiting to find out if it's a boy or a girl, because if it's a girl, I've got some like baby dresses I guess I want to make her. Otherwise everything else can go either way. And also I want to know if she has any colour preferences for what she would like stuff to be in. Like I know not everyone is like me. Some people do want pink for a girl or blue for a boy, and that's totally fine if that's what you want. So I'm going to wait and find out what colours she wants for baby clothes before I start on some of those for her as well. And it's also great because I have all of Layla's old clothes that she can no longer fit in, which can now go to her baby. A lot of her earlier stuff was very gender neutral anyway, so it should be fine either way. And it's great because I'm not going to have to store baby stuff or stuff that she's grown out of for very long, which is good. So moving on, we have a couple of Knitalongs going on in the group at the moment. I'm not going to talk about them too much right now. We have the Knitting Expat Designs year-long KAL, and the Sock Pattern Club, which is going on until towards the end of the year. So both of them have prize drawings at the end of July, so get all of your finished objects in by the end of today. Tomorrow morning, whenever I get up and whenever I manage to remember, I will close the no, I'm not going to close any threads. I'm just going to start drawing prizes. Basically, the way I'm going to do it is, and this is how I've done it so far, is I've gone back through the thread, and so the very first post from the first of the month, or the beginning of the next sort of segment of prize drawing, until the last post on the last day of July, that will be the range of numbers from which I will do the random number generator for prizes for both finished object threads. So make sure you get your prizes in. If you don't get it in before the deadline, don't worry, because there'll be more draws further on in the year. So for the Knitting Expat Designs KAL, there's the prize draw is every 2 months. Yeah, Derek's coughing or sneezing. The prize draw is every 2 months, and for the Sock Pattern Club, the prize draw is every month. So next time I record, I will be doing prizes. And then we also have the We Are Knitters kit, which I talked about as a giveaway that we've been having going in the group, for a kit for either the Cusco sweater or the classic sweater, which are both basically the exact same design, but one is out of using alpaca yarn and one uses wool. So the lovely people at We Are Knitters were generous enough to allow you, the winner, to decide which version you would rather have, the alpaca or the wool, and what colour you would like from what they have available. So I'm going to contact the winner directly to get all of the information and send it on to We Are Knitters. I do need to draw for the prize winner. I was going to do it before I recorded today, but I completely forgot. So I will do that off screen, and I will contact the winner directly for that. So thank you to everyone who entered for that giveaway. And I'm not going to do questions and answers this week, so I don't think there were any new questions this week. But if you do have any questions for me, there is a questions and answers thread in the group, and by all means ask a question there and I will happily answer it for you. Or I try to sometimes remember to go back and check the video on YouTube and see if there are any questions underneath the video on YouTube which I can answer for you, but I don't always remember to do that. The other thing I had to say as well is a couple of people in the last couple of episodes anyway have commented saying that they found Hugo quite distracting on the podcast. Well, to be honest, I've more often than not gotten positive comments about having Hugo on the podcast. More often than not, people actually like seeing him and his little antics on screen. For some reason he's decided to sleep today instead of joining me, so I guess there's that. He's not on it every single week, but more often than not he is. And you know what, I'm not gonna kick him off the table, because if I did, he's just going to come back up, and it's just going to be even more distracting with me trying to get rid of the cat all the time. So it is what it is. I'm sorry if you don't enjoy it. I'm sorry if you find it distracting. There are hundreds of podcasts out there. You know, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch this one, but by no means do I feel like you have to watch it if you're not enjoying it. So I'm sorry if it bothers you, but at the same time, there's not really a whole lot that I can do about it. There we go. That's that. I'll move on to week in review, or weeks in review. It's been a couple of weeks. So Layla this week will be 22 weeks old. I cannot believe she's been here for that long. I have a 5-month-old. Like, that is just blows my mind. Things were going really well. Last time I recorded, things were going so well with her feeding. It was great. She was sleeping through the night and all of that was happening, and then for some reason it was like a few days later, suddenly everything changed. She's not drinking as well, not having her milk as well. She's been really fussy a lot more with feeding. She cries a lot more with feeding. We've gone through all sorts of possibilities. I've taken her to the doctor to be checked out. She did have thrush for a while. That was before all this happened, which we treated, and that's gone. It's not there anymore. She had, doctor thought she had a sore throat. That was the first theory. Then we thought it was something else. Then we've basically gone through a whole host of different variations, essentially because she can't tell us what's wrong, she can't talk. It's just a process of elimination and trying a variety of different things to see what helps or what hasn't helped. Now at the moment, the last couple of days, she's generally she's on medication for reflux at the moment, since yesterday basically. I don't think it's reflux, I really don't, because she doesn't have any of the typical symptoms for reflux. So I don't know, we're trying it out. Doctor said to give it a few days to see if it'll take effect. It hasn't really had any kind of positive effect so far. She's still just as fussy as she was last week. I'm just try not to stress about it too much and just leave her be and just trust that she will drink when she's hungry. So we'll just see how it goes. The nights were going a little bit terrible for a few days when everything was at its worst, but the last few days it's sort of picked up a bit more now, and she's sleeping through a lot better and not waking up too early in the morning. So and she's napping pretty well during the day, so I can't really complain all too much about that. But on the flip side, she's not completely better. But we did start her on solids this week. The doctor said to try that and see if that might help as well. You know, her rejecting her bottles might be more to do with the fact that she might not want them anymore. She might want food or something, I don't know. So we're trying that. So far it's going okay. We tried it with baby cereal a couple of days and she wasn't too keen on that, but I tried it with pureed carrots today and she liked that. Well, I say she liked that. She ate more of that than anything else so far, so I'm gonna keep going with that, I guess. Other than that, just told you Perry's sister's pregnant. I got to catch up with a couple of knitting friends last week, which was lovely. Oh, and on Saturday, so I mentioned earlier that we went to see Midsummer's Night Dream in the park, which was really, really good fun. It was a really good performance. The actors and actresses were amazing. It was so much fun. I'd seen Midsummer's Night Dream at Shakespeare in the Park in London when it was played at Regent's Park 8 years ago now, when I was a child still, a teenager. And so it was really fun to see it here in Central Park. And the weather was perfect for it. The setting was amazing. The set was great. The whole production was amazing. And I liked how they modernized certain parts of it without losing the whole Shakespearean feel. So other than that, Perry's away for a couple of days. He's away today and tomorrow. He'll be back late tomorrow evening. So fingers crossed things go okay with Layla tonight. I've not been sleeping particularly well. Nothing to do with Layla. Totally just me not being able to sleep very well. And one last thing I wanted to talk about, I hadn't really mentioned this before and I kept meaning to, but one of the things that is really important to me in general is I love taking photos. Photography was my first love before I found knitting. It is something I love doing. I absolutely enjoy photography so much, and it was something actually I really wanted to do professionally for a while, but decided I actually wanted to keep it as a hobby. Anyway, so I take tons and tons of pictures of Layla. So, I mean, if you follow me on Instagram on our personal account, you'll see that there are just like tons of pictures of Layla. I take loads of pictures I don't even post as well. But, you know, with a newborn baby, there's not always a ton of time for getting albums done or like printing photo books and stuff like that. It can be quite time consuming to create them. So I found a company called Chatbooks. And this is not sponsored at all. I'm just putting this out there because I know there are lots of other people who are expecting babies soon or have just had babies, and I found this to be an amazing way to keep track of or to get photos printed regularly, photo books printed regularly. Like I said, not sponsored at all. This is like just me. I've recommended this to a few people so far and I really love it so much that I just want to share it with everyone. So I get them done every month. You can get them done as frequently as you want, and there's a few different options on what you can get. Like I'm doing a series, so every month I get a month's worth of pictures of Layla printed in a photo book, and so each month is 1 month of her life. So the first book was her first month, and so that's her 1 month photo on the cover, and then inside are all of my favorite pictures from that month. You get in the series version you get maximum of I think 60 pages, so it really does like make you really curate the photos and really sort of narrow down the ones you want. I mean, you can have it so that it automatically pulls from your Instagram feed or from a specific folder on your phone. It's an app on the phone that I use it on my phone. Or you can, if you're like me and you have to make sure everything's in the right place and the way you want it, you can be a little bit more specific and place the, you know, pick the order of photos that you want. So the way I've done it is the cover photo is always a photo towards the end of the month. So this is her 1 month photo and each one is like towards the end of the month. And the way I've done it is the last photo of each book is one of her sleeping. So the end of the first month is the one of her and my mum just like passed out on the sofa. It's just one of my favourite photos. And that was like the day before my mum left. And this is her 2 month book. This is again one of the favourite sort of like photos I took. And I also do create collages on my phone sometimes to get like 3 or 4 pictures on one page when I don't want to use up too many pages for the same type of photos. So for example here with her bath photos, And the end of this one is another favourite of mine. Like just like hugging while she's sleeping on my lap. It's really adorable. Anyway, so and then I've also got her 3rd and 4th month done as well. This is her wearing the Sweet Pea dress. And her 5th month book is already ordered, it's on its way in the mail, so it should be here soon. And the end of all of these books have a picture of her sleeping, and I kind of like that. It's like a little running theme with the books. And yeah, I'm really excited, and it's great because at any point you can go back and reorder the books if you want another copy, if you want to give them as like a gift for a grandparent or something, or you can also get them printed in hardcover. These are all in soft cover. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying doing it. It doesn't take too much time at all. I kind of, as the month goes on, I have a little folder on my phone in the photos bit where I just sort of select the pictures I might want to put into the book, fling them all into that folder, and then at the end of the month when it comes to sit down to doing the book, I kind of just go through it, narrow down the pictures I want to use, don't want to use, whatever, and it takes all of like 10 or 15 minutes to put the book together and get it printed off, sent off to be printed. So, and it's pretty affordable. I think it's something like $10 a book or something, so it's really not that expensive. And I mean, it's not prohibitively expensive if it's something you wanted to do. So yeah, I wanted to put that out there along with the 1 Second Everyday app, which I also use to create the monthly sort of like video clips with all the little snips from every day. Those are the two things that I'm really enjoying doing to keep track of Layla's first year. The photo books will be something I'm hoping to be able to carry on doing once, like beyond the first year, but and even the 1 Second Every Day, it'd be nice to do that for more than just 1 year as well. But we'll see where we end up. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything I have to tell you today. Thank you so much for joining me. There was a ton of things to go through in this week's podcast, so thank you so much for sticking with me if you're getting to the end. I need to go wake up Layla, and I'll see you guys soon. On that note, actually, I think for the next podcast I'm going to try a more vlog style podcast where I film little snippets throughout the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully have a couple of short little sit down segments rather than trying to do one big segment like this, because it seems to be quite time consuming and I don't always have enough time to do it. So I think I'm going to try doing that for next time. Who knows, I might end up forgetting to do it and it just might not happen, but that's my aim. I'm going to try and do that next time, and try and insert a little bit more snippets from like just general life stuff when I go out with Layla and just doing things as a family and things like that. So we will see how that works. If that works, that might be easier to fit into my life at the moment, and I find sometimes it's quite hard to carve out enough time to sit down and just record. Even though the podcast is usually just an hour to an hour and a half, which in itself is quite a lot of time, there's quite a lot of stopping and starting and rearranging of stuff, and so we will see. Alright, I think that's enough for me for today. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I will see you soon. I need to go wake the baby. She's overslept, so till next time. Bye.